Okay, let's review the first 2 days of the division series. And just after Saturday, I can tell you they were kind of memorable.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, I just proved it with my lower third. It says Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for a long time, and I'm wrapping up my 6th full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. And this episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, more like Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner, Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. Or as they would say in Montreal, aujourd'hui. Follow me at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, whatever it's called now on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. I'm recording this segment on Sunday morning. So I don't know what's going to happen in games 2, but I can tell you game 1 of the division series of both the American League and the National League, it was a fun day of baseball. Now, first of all, I just got to say, anyone wondering if Shohei Ohtani was going to be up for the task in his first ever big league playoff appearance, the first appearance in the postseason for the Major League Baseball after years of purgatory in Anaheim, where they not only couldn't put a winning product on the field, they forget a trip to the playoffs. They couldn't play 500. Well, his first at bat with the Padres winning 3-bagel, Shohei Ohtani flew to left field. He's a choker. He's awful. Second inning, he hit a 3-run homer. Of course he was going to show up. Of course he was going to be a big part of it. Of course he would hit a game-tying home run and get a hit and score in the game-winning rally. It was the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres was basically everything I predicted the Dodgers were going to have to do in order to win. Where I did my show on location at Dodger Stadium, and some people said, you hate the Dodgers because I said there are questions in the starting rotation. That's not hating the Dodgers. That's saying fact. The Dodgers play in California. That's not hating the Dodgers. That's saying a fact. Well, Yamamoto wasn't great. There's no getting around it. He put the Dodgers in a 3-0 hole from the start. He only lasted 3 innings. And what I said in the video was the Dodgers can win, but they can't rely on their pitching staff. They have to play the proverbial Rubik's Cube. And it's going to be up to Dave Roberts, his biggest challenge, because this is a win or bust championship team for LA. He has to take every pitcher he's got and balance it. And do you know what? He did it yesterday. Brazier, Vesia, Phillips, Kopech, Treinen. He mixed and matched. And after 5 runs in the first 3 innings, the final 6 innings, shutout ball. They let up 2 hits. They let up 4 walks. But Treinen got a 5-out save when it was clear. Kopech didn't have it. Kopech was great all since he was acquired by Chicago, but he didn't have it. Yank, bring in Treinen. That's what he has to do. Don't worry about who gets the decision. Don't worry about who gets the save. And, the Padres didn't get the performance out of Cease, who had a wonderful year, but he got smacked around. He didn't get through the 4th. And Estrada didn't do his job. And then it was 7-5 after 5, and then both bullpens shut it down. And LA got the win. It obviously could have bounced the other way, but Roberts did what he had to do. So give him credit for that in game 1. We'll see what happens in game 2. Now, there's always talk about with the wild card format, whether or not the team that has a long layoff has an advantage. That's been a debate. And I brought it up too. I mean, we see there have been times it looks like a team looks rusty. I love that the first game that was played on Saturday was Detroit versus Cleveland. Detroit with all the momentum, that great winning, the unbelievable September that they had, that wild race to finally clinch a playoff spot in the final weekend of the season. And the Cleveland, who had clinched weeks ago, were sitting resting on their laurels. How will this play out? Will the red hot Tigers, who just upset Houston, come into Cleveland and catch the Cleveland Guardians off guard? The answer to that was a defiant no. Tanner Bybee, who didn't look great his first inning, but then first four batters against the Tigers opener, Tyler Holton, double quad, fry walks, an error with Ramirez reaches on an error, Naylor gets a single, and then they have to bring out Reese Olson, who lets up a 3-run home run. It's 5-0. Now, Reese Olson actually pitched pretty well after that, but that's a little bit of, besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how'd you like to play? By the time David Fry got the double, it was 7-0, and then that was it. I mean, Bybee didn't get the decision because they lifted him after 5 because he didn't look great. But you can't worry about things like who got the decision, who got the save, who got the this, who got the that, because you just have to win games. It's binary. It's why they used Class A at the end of the game, even though it was 7-0. It wasn't a save situation, but Class A hadn't pitched in a week, and they said they have an off day on Sunday. So, Smith, Herring, Gaddis, Class A all came in, and they just punched the Tigers right in the mouth. And then there's going to be a day off. So, Skubal is probably going to pitch on Monday. He probably has to pitch on Monday. But the Guardians said, hey, if you're going to eliminate the Astros, great. We're going to try to eliminate you. Now, Kansas City came into Yankee Stadium, and they showed, it was a weird back and forth game. And a lot of people are harping on the fact that, what's his name? Jazz Chisholm should have been called out on the stolen base. They went to review. The review seemed to show he was tagged out. They called him safe, and he came around on Verdugo's single as a go-ahead run. Yeah, that stunk. Here's the main reason why the Yankees beat the Royals. And it wasn't because Garrett Cole was great. He wasn't. Garrett Cole was not very sharp yesterday. He only lasted 5 innings. He let up 4 runs, 3 of them earned. He let up 7 hits and 2 walks, including a home run. He was not on his game. And Holmes did okay. Canely did his job. Luke Weaver was the pitching star for the Yankees. Here's the main problem. Here's the problem for Kansas City. They walked everybody. They walked in a run. They constantly, every batter was 1-0, 1-0. And even though the Royals took the lead at one point, and they had they had a 5-4 lead in the 6th, Verdugo walks. Everyone is the ball one to everybody. They walked in a run. They walked in 2 runs in the 5th inning. The Yankees took the lead in the 5th on 2 bases loaded walks. And an inning where they faced, Soto, Judge, Wells, Stanton, no one got an extra base hit in that inning. If they could throw freaking strikes in a game where Aaron Judge struck out 3 times, and you got an offer from Judge, you got an offer from Stanton. Granted, you got 3 hits from Juan Soto. But the Royals pitching staff didn't throw strikes, and give the Yankees credit. It wasn't their best game. Cole wasn't on his game. Judge wasn't on his game, and they won. That is a great sign for the Yankees. And I said this earlier with Kansas in the series, which I said was going to be Kansas City, New York. I said, whoever wins game 1 is probably going to win that series. And the Yankees did everything but put that game on a silver platter for them. But the Royals handed it back and give the Yankees credit. They won a game they probably shouldn't have won. And so now if they outplay the Royals the next game, they're going to be in great shape. Which brings us to Philadelphia versus the Mets. I've never seen a game flip in such an absurd way as quickly as it did, as was the game between the Mets and the Phillies. Wheeler was unbelievable. And Kyle Schwarber homers on the first at bat. And at no point did the Mets look like they were even in it. At no point did the Mets even look like their head was in the game. And yet it was only 1-0. Like, Senga let up the home run. Okay. But the person you got to give a lot of credit to is David Peterson. And he threw out 3 shutout innings early on. He's not going to get the win. He's not going to get the save. No one's going to remember the fact that he pitched those 3 key innings. But he did. And it kept Philadelphia from rallying. Now, Zach Wheeler was dominant through 7 innings. Yes, I knew he threw 110 pitches. But at some point, you have to throw some of them out the window because the nanosecond he was relieved, I know Philadelphia has a good bullpen, but the nanosecond he was relieved, you got a sense of relief from the Mets, and they unloaded on Philadelphia's bullpen. I tweeted before the rally started, why are they taking out an ace who's absolutely dominating? Well, now the Philadelphia Phillies, the team I picked to win the World Series at the beginning of the year, the team I picked to win the World Series at the beginning of the postseason, are now could be potentially on their heels. They threw their best pitcher. They threw their number one. They threw their Cy Young contender. He's not going to win the Cy Young, but Wheeler was the guy. Now they got Sanchez versus Severino. Granted, Sanchez is a good pitcher. Severino is a decent pitcher. Severino had a wonderful comeback season. He probably should win comeback. Now Sale should win comeback player of the year, but Severino should get some consideration. But now the season is resting on Sanchez, because if the Phillies go down 0-2 to go back to New York, you think the Mets are going to lose a game in New York? It's unbelievable. I think it was my cousin said to me, what did he say to me? It was about one of the announcers made a great point about the unbelievable game they had yesterday, which was it was like that was the 3rd biggest win for the Mets this week. They had the wild come from behind win against Atlanta on the play-in day. They had the wild the Pete Alonso game. And then they had this game. That's all in the same week. Met fans, take your blood pressure medics. But, of course, the Mets did exactly what they had to do. There's 0 pressure on the Mets right now. 0. Because if they lose, it's 1-1, which every Met fan would have taken in a heartbeat when Schwarber hit that home run and Wheeler was dominating. So now we're going to see. Now, you already know what happens. But we're going to talk about the games. On segment 2, we're going to talk about the games on Sunday and give you my thoughts about moving forward. All right, we're going to hear from our good friends over at Arena Club. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Mike Trout rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was a hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how our card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform that you have to check out. Right now, you could get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code LockedOnMLB. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB. Code LockedOnMLB for 10% off of your purchase. That is Arena Club. Let's have some transparency. All right. Well, the Phillies Mets game just ended maybe about 10, 15 minutes ago. And I mean, what do you even do with a game like that? I mean, how do you even break it down? I mean, I love games like this in so many ways because the narrative of the game kept changing. The hero of the game kept changing. At first, you think, okay, this is Severino who's having a terrific start, and Vientos gets that home run in the third, and all of a sudden the Mets are up 2-0. It's 2-0 going to the sixth. You think, oh my God, the Mets going to sweep Philadelphia? What in the hay is going on here? And then you see Alonso hits the home run. And when Alonso made it 3-0, I really thought this is going to be a sweep. This is going to be an absolute sweep. And then Harper said, okay, this is stupid. And he hits the home run. And Nick Castellanos says, wait a minute, I want to be the hero of this game. And he winds up tying the game. Fantastic. Everyone's happy, right? All is glorious in the world until Brandon Nimmo. He hits a home run. And next thing you know, it's 4-3 Mets. And I got to just say one thing. Sometimes managers make the wrong decision. And sometimes managers make a decision that I agree with. It just didn't work. And Carlos Mendoza did exactly that. Buto was trying to get out of the seventh. And the top of Philadelphia's lineup was coming up with runners up, with runners in scoring position. And he brought in Diaz, basically brought him in the seventh. And he got the check swing of Schwarber, which ended the inning. And whether or not it was a check swing or not, that's up to you. But it was called a check swing strikeout. And great. It looked brilliant. And then in the eighth inning, Ruiz did not have it. And Castellanos and Harper got on, setting up Bryson Stott. Bryson Stott wants to be the hero. And he couldn't get through the order. Now, it didn't work, but I thought it was the right move. I thought it was the right move because of what I call the tyranny of the save. When managers make decisions where you say, well, I got to bring my best reliever in the ninth. Well, the key situation could be the seventh or eighth. And I was all for having Diaz, who was their top reliever, to get out of that jam in the seventh, which he did. And then to maybe get him through the eighth, which he didn't. But I liked the decision. I liked the thought process. The game's on the line. The game's on the line, and maybe, just maybe, I should have my best relief pitcher not available. Maybe, just maybe, if you have a chance to take a 2-0 lead against one of the team that a lot of people are picking to win the World Series, including your pal Sully, and I like to think I came into their plan. I don't mind that move. I think that was a smart move. It just didn't work out. And Stott said, I'm the hero of this game. And he hit the 2-run triple. Castellano, who dove in and scored, and suddenly they tack on an extra run. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to the game. I'm listening to Howie Rose. And then Vientos comes up and says, hey, wait a minute. Why can't this be the Vientos game? And of course he had a game-tying home run in the ninth. And at that point, I just threw my hands in the air and said, this game is certifiably insane. It is certifiably insane. And McGill damn near got through the ninth before Castellanos, of course, it became the Castellanos game, got the base hit to left field to win the game for the Phillies. Narratives are written in retrospect. We had two wild games, back and forth games between Philadelphia and the Mets. Now, what will we learn from that? Well, Nola is pitching on Tuesday against Manaea. That's a pretty good matchup. Now, did the Phillies retain momentum, or did the Mets prove that they could play with them, counterpunching them and saying, all right, you got to split at home? What actually happened in this series? Or are we about to have a classic? All I know is if you're a Met fan, you had the final game, you had the come from behind game in Atlanta. You had the Pete Alonso game in Milwaukee. You had yesterday's come from behind win, and you had this all in 1 week. You have a day off. Use it. We have a potential classic series going on here. And I have to be honest, I don't really have a dog in the fight. I have many relatives who are Met fans and many relatives who are Phillies fans. I have many cousins who grew up in Connecticut, big Mets fans. I have a whole bunch of cousins who grew up in Delaware, big Phillies fans. So even family ties don't have me having wanting a winner there. Sure, I like the underdog Mets, but I also like the team that I picked to win the World Series. I like superstars winning titles, like Bryce Harper, but I like great stories like the Mets. All these things are happening. So all I could ever ask for is a great series. And guess what, folks? I appear to be getting that. Well, the Dodgers and the Padres are starting any second now. So you've got a hard act to follow. This episode of Locked On MLB is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Explore U.S. cities you've secretly wanted to learn more about with hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city this postseason. Hey, if you're a Met fan, you want to check out Philadelphia or vice versa? Hey, I'm in Los Angeles right now. I bet a lot of Dodger fans are going to be checking out San Diego. I see those San Diegans walking around here. Now, you want to find the best place to stay? Booking.com has a wide variety of choice across the United States. You could go incognito into their rival city. Booking.com delivers exactly the right U.S. stay for you. From hotels that look over the stadium to family-friendly resorts to cute bed and breakfasts, Booking.com has so many choices all across the United States. That's right. They can make you a fan of any city. A Met fan, you may fall in love with Philly. Booking.com. More like booking.yeah. Hey, let's hear from our good friends over at FanDuel. You know all about FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season big with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page when you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. It's America's #1 sportsbook. All right, what is there to review about the game that took place between the Dodgers and the Padres? It was 10-2 was the final score. Now, there was a moment the Dodgers could have made this an interesting game. They had the bases loaded and nobody out in the second inning. Flaherty had started the game and was bad. He started the game badly. How do I know he started the game badly? It was 3-0 in the second. That's not what you're looking for from a starting pitcher. And the Padres were throwing Yu Darvish on the mound. And alas, it was they put Darvish in a bad spot in the second inning, and he wiggled his way out of it. He only allowed the 1 run. In fact, he only let up 3 hits and 2 walks the entire game. And he only threw 82 pitches. I think he easily could have come out in the 8th inning, but the whole thing that happened in the top of the 7th inning, with the bottom of the 7th inning, was, probably took a little bit of the wind out of the sails for Darvish. He was pitching very well, but there was a big, long delay of game because some idiot was throwing stuff at Profar in left field. Now, Profar, obviously, he made the great catch that took away a game-tying home run from Mookie Betts, and Mookie Betts didn't realize was caught until midway through his celebration. And at that point, Manny Machado held a team meeting, impromptu team meeting in the dugout. Now, a lot's probably going to be made of that. Now, Machado wound up getting a base hit. Merrill wound up getting a home run. And next thing you know, after that, the Padres scored 6 runs, and the Dodgers tacked on a meaningless run in the bottom of the 9th inning. It was an absolute massacre in front of 54,000 people, and the Padres all have a chip on their shoulder. Now, I got to put some things with a tiny bit of a grain of salt. Our good friend of the podcast and the host of Locked On Dodgers, Mr. Jeff Snyder, wound up saying, he said something. Now, of course, he's a Dodger fan, but he is a good enough Dodger fan to not just play by the team narratives. He understands when he will call out the Dodgers when they do something wrong. He will praise other teams when they do something right. And he said that Manny Machado and Jurickson Profar both play with a chip on their shoulder, and that chip usually comes from their imagination. Unfortunately, a few Dodger fans played into it for them tonight. I agree to a certain degree. I don't know. I don't get too deep into the bulletin board material and getting the team all fired up, but having things being thrown at a player from the fans, that's just Bush League, and that's terrible. Now, there was a heated exchange between Machado and Flaherty, and I guess some people, Flaherty wound up hitting Tatis Jr. and there are some people who thought that was intentional, and there was a lot of chippiness between Machado, who was chippy when he was with Baltimore. He was chippy the hour and a half he was with the Dodgers. Jeff Snyder did write something I completely agree with. He said, I believe intelligent people could disagree, but if you think there's even a tiny chance Flaherty was throwing at Tatis, then, well, I guess you're not one of the intelligent people I was talking about. Of course, Flaherty wasn't throwing at Tatis Jr. Do you know why? Because Flaherty has bigger fish to fry, like, I don't know, pitching deep into the game. The Dodgers need length from their pitching staff. They don't need someone trying to prove their manhood to Tatis Jr. They need someone to get Tatis Jr. out, and they need to go deeper into the game. For goodness sakes, Yamamoto didn't get into the 4th. Flaherty, I'll give Flaherty some credit. He threw 90 pitches, and he didn't finish the 6th, but at least he got to the 6th. At least he grinded it out and got to the 6th inning, which I didn't think he was going to after the first 2 dreadful innings. Padres are, to paraphrase Dune, Father, the sleeper has awakened. But I think a lot, if the Padres wind up winning this series, and if they win it in the next 2 games, a lot is going to be made out of the Manny Machado team meeting and them exploding and blah, 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 blah. I think a lot more of it has to do when I take a look at the next matchup. These 2 teams are going to be playing in San Diego, one of the best stadiums in baseball and what has turned into a fabulous baseball environment. Michael King is pitching for San Diego, and he was brilliant in his last outing. Walker Buehler is pitching for the Dodgers. He has one more win than me this year. Now, wins and losses are a very, very poor metric for a pitcher's success. So I admit I said that with a little bit of tongue in cheek. But the fact that his ERA is 5.38, and his last 7 games, I mean, he has not pitched very well. He has not pitched very well, and he hasn't pitched much. He's pitched 16 games this year and hasn't shown a lot. And like the video that I posted a few days ago, and one where a couple of Dodger fans thought I was trash to the Dodgers, it is going to take everything in the power of Dave Roberts to mix and match. They can't have another offer from Mookie Betts. Lest we forget, he was an offer against the. He didn't show up against Arizona last year, and he hasn't shown up so far this year. He needs to start getting some big swings. Teoscar Hernandez has showed up. Ohtani got the big home run, but Darvish seemed to figure him out. They can't afford to, not have their guns ablazing, because the Padres' guns are ablazing, and they're going to be facing off against Walker Buehler. And so they need to basically have a slugfest, which means maybe it's time for a Dodger to have a team meeting. It's interesting that Darvish and Manny Machado were such big stars of this particular game. I'm sure Dodger fans are thinking, where was that Darvish in Game 7 of the 2017 World Series? If he had pitched like that in Game 7 and the Dodgers would have won, then the whole Astros trash can thing would have been a weird footnote that virtually nobody would have cared about except Yankee fans. The only people who would care about would have been Yankee fans, because everyone else, the Dodgers would have won the World Series. I said, do you know they were using trash cans? No kidding. Well, there you go. And of course, the next year, Manny Machado, who, by the way, in 2018, in the Dodgers postseason, he did get a bunch of big hits. But of course, the thing everyone remembers is him swinging and missing to end the series against Chris Sale and the Red Sox. Well, there you go. But we do have a bunch of games coming up, and we have 2 games coming up tomorrow. The early game, it's 1 o'clock here in California, 4 on the East Coast. Skubal against Boyd. That's going to be a big game for the Guardians, who clobbered Detroit in Game 1. Now they're facing their ace. If they can win this game, then this is going to be a quick series. This is the best chance for the Tigers to come back 1-1. Cole Ragans and Carlos Rodon. Sometimes Carlos Rodon has pitched brilliantly. Sometimes he's been awful. He's pitched pretty well recently, and Ragans has as well. So we're going to see very big game for the Royals. All right, well, what a weekend this has been, and it's just getting warmed up. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Going over a great weekend of baseball. This has been Locked On MLB. Went a little long today, but there was a lot to cover. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.